embodiment. It's about not just visualizing things, but to really feel the visualization, and not necessarily to drive it, but to allow it to get into the body with those felt sensations that equate to what if this was already happening? What if this was already unfolding in my life? How would it feel to me physically? And get to know those sensations in the body. Hello again. Welcome back to another episode of The Art of Awakening. I'm your host, Dr. Sue Morter, and today we have another guest with us that I am thrilled about. Her name is Natalie Ledwell. So for those of you that might not know her, which I can't imagine there are too many of you, she's been in this transformational realm of as a speaker, and you might have heard of something that she has generated called mind movies. And if not, we're definitely going to tell you about those. But Natalie is a best-selling author, a transformational leader, and as I said, she's a co-founder of Mind Movies, a groundbreaking personal development platform that has empowered over 10 million people worldwide. So listen up, okay? She is passionate about helping individuals unlock their potential. She also leads the Mind Movies Method Coaching Academy, guiding people to discover their passions and transform their lives. She's known for her adventurous spirit. I can attest to that, and belief that nothing is impossible. Natalie inspires others to create lives filled with joy, purpose, and fulfillment. And she remains committed to her mission of empowering millions to live the lives that they are destined for. And so I want to tell you just a little bit that I know Natalie from the Transformational Leadership Council gatherings, where we go different destinations around the world as a group of leaders that are helping each other understand each of our individual approaches to awakening and healing and personal development or spiritual development, as well as business development and such. So in that, I have an opportunity to meet lots of great folks. And the very first time that I was in conversation with Natalie, I knew that she was rocking it in the world and was a real go-getter. So she's a very spirited individual, and I look forward to sharing her with you. Help me welcome to our show, Natalie Ledwell. Natalie, hello, dear.
Hi, how are you,
Hello.
darling?
I'm so good. It's so good to see you again and be with you. And I can't wait to share some of you with our people. So, when we speak about expanding our vision and what is possible, it tends to come up in conversations about how do I create a better life for myself. And oftentimes we'll say, well, we sort of have to take the blinders off. We have to approach awakening, become more aware of more of who we are and our potential, etc. And to step into that potential is something that comes up often in conversation. You got to find your high potential and step into it. And so I look forward to hearing just a little bit from you about what that means to you, to step into this higher potential that we are. How do we do that, and how do we know that we're doing it? This kind of thing.
I know, well, sometimes for some of us, it just starts with this gnawing in our system. It's like, I know there's something different, there's something more. I think I've always had that. I've always,
Mm.
been in a specific career or a job, and I'm like, this is great, but I've learnt everything I can. I need to go to the next level. So for me, there's always another level. And I think that for especially a lot of the women that I'm working with right now, and we're in our mid age, in this golden age of our lives, that seems to be more and more prevalent than ever before.
Mm.
I think that we as women have done a lot of the responsibilities, the things that we should have done, that culture dictated to us, that we be the mother, the wife, the career woman or whatever. But we get to this time of our age and we're like, oh, okay, I think I can contribute more. I think I could. I have this yearning to make a difference. and to do something more. So I'm always pushing myself for myself, what that's going to be for me. Last year we started the My Movies Method Coaching Academy, and we've had hundreds of people go through the program now, and on the other side of that are able to set up, their online business and start coaching people, and some of the niches and the little the people that our coaches are helping is just mind blowing to me, how they're coming up with specific people to help. And for me, it's not just the coaching academy. I also have our new relief app at the moment, which is an emotional well-being app where we're using AI technology so that people can measure the emotional energy that they're feeling in that moment through the frequency of their voice. And now they are given choices of what they can do to be able to shift that energy if they choose to do so. Yeah, there's always something different and always something new. And for me, it's like there's always another level. Where do we go from here?
Yeah, it's really amazing what technology is providing for us and the evolution
Yeah.
that's happening right under our nose. It's so rapid and things are changing so quickly for so many. Um, and it's really wonderful that you're offering a coaching program where people can learn to stabilize and to progress in a logical fashion forward, so that all of the all that's happening in our world doesn't become overwhelming and disorienting for people. Some people are, afraid of AI, and other people are thrilled about it, and amongst the many other things and topics that are up at this time. So how have you found it to be working with AI in terms of getting advice back or feedback back as to how you're doing at your humanity?
Yeah. Well, this is the way that I see it. Yes, using things like ChatGPT and so forth, you can train it to, be able to help you. Like we're using it to write emails and things like that. And it takes a little while to train it. But this is the way that I see it. Every morning, when I do my meditation, I'm quietening my mind so I can connect to the greater consciousness, to my higher consciousness. And I do that for inspiration and guidance. Now, the questions that I ask of the superconscious, I can also ask of ChatGPT. And so I see it as a consciousness that we can tap into for guidance and for inspiration. I don't know if I necessarily get, answers from it, but what I do is I get a direction for which it will um, uh, inspire the way that I'm going to write an email or something like that. So, I mean, there are so many fantastic uses of AI, and our lives are going to be forever changed by this. So, I mean, there are always going to be bad actors when it comes to anything, anything new. I mean, there's bad actors in everything. But when we can focus on and remember, the AI is learning from us, it's learning from humanity. So the more of us that can be in there and creating this consciousness within ChatGPT and and within that mode, I think that we're really positively influencing, how that mechanism can then inspire and guide the rest of us.
Mm.
That's how I see it.
Yeah, fascinating. I was
Mm.
interviewed by a gentleman on a podcast who's done hundreds of deep spiritual teachers over the past 30 years, and he was doing exactly what you're talking about. He was going back and contacting all of us and asking us if we would put our content into this library that he was generating, so that it could be uploaded into this larger bandwidth of information that people are drawing from, so that it could have an impact and an influence on bringing positive consciousness to this thing that everybody's tapping into and asking for advice or rewrites on things or what have you. So it was a very interesting contemplation. It's nice to hear you reference it similarly. And it might set some of our listeners at ease a little bit about, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? We don't know if it's a person or if it's not. Um, I'm not engaging in that at this point, but for no particular reason other than just doing my thing. But I'm really happy to hear that you're experiencing it in the ways that you are. Because it is inevitable. It's been around for a long time, actually. Um, and it's just become more of a conversation, lately because of the releases and advancements in it for us at this time. So I
Yeah,
know that's not what
and it's
you're. Yeah,
jumping in leaps and bounds, to be honest with you, and it still astounds me. I try and stay up to date with a lot of the new things that are happening,
yeah,
um, and I know that there will be some more rules and laws coming in. That's going to, it's a little bit of a wild west at the moment with people using these tools, but there will be some guardrails coming soon, and I know that they're working on that right
yeah.
now. Um,
Fascinating.
yeah, yeah.
So excellent. Well, I know that you didn't come to talk about AI. I just caught my ear and I was like, oh, well, let's just happen on that. So,
But there is
so
a spiritual side to this, so I'm glad
yeah,
that we got
well,
to touch on
right,
that.
everything is, right? If we
Mhm.
allow the higher meaning of all things in life, we start to weave together, a life that is based with deep meaning. So,
Yeah.
so it's fabulous. So I want to talk a little bit about your amazing contribution with Mind Movies. I know people probably are always interviewing you about this topic, but it's truly a fascinating concept. And you've shared how a moment of deep frustration and exhaustion became the catalyst for transforming your life and then creating it. But you want to just share a little bit about that background and what Mind Movies is? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I've been a student of personal development since I was 21. So one of my bosses handed me a set of cassettes by Brian Tracy when I was
Mm.
21 years old. And he said, I think you
Um,
should listen to these. I think you'll get something out of it. And I was just like, what? This exists? And so, all through my 20s, I was going to, Tony Robbins and Zig Ziglar and Jim Rohn and all the speakers when they came to Australia. I would go and go to their things and listen to the cassettes. So I knew how to set goals and think positively and all that kind of thing. So I thought I was doing everything right. But my bank balance and my bills, the discrepancy between the two of those things was not showing the result that I wanted. And a friend of mine recommended that I get online and download or buy a DVD called The Secret. So it wasn't until I watched that DVD and I'm thinking, wait a minute, how did I miss this? Like, I've read Think and Go Rich, I've read all the books. What's going on here? But the piece that was missing for me is it was a challenge for me to visualize myself in possession of the money or the success or the things that I wanted. I never really spent time visualizing that. And I didn't equate how important it was to feel emotion or feel the emotion that I will feel when I have these things in my possession. So they were the big takeaways for me, and realizing I didn't have to have the entire plan all written out. I just had to start moving in that direction. So that was the catalyst for my movies. The Secret had just been on Oprah. Everyone was talking about visualizing, and a friend had put together this little video, which is like a slideshow, which was back then was PowerPoint affirmations with photos in between and then a song over the top. And that was the first version of what we started to call mind movies. And so I actually just watched a little bit of the Oscars yesterday, and the woman who won Best Actress for Best Supporting Actress, I think, for Baby Reindeer. I don't know if you saw the Oscars, but she talked about she'd go to work because she still had a job for the first 8 years she was acting. And she goes, I had a little like PowerPoint slideshow, which was my vision board. And she goes, I would watch that every morning and I would have people like Jodie Foster. And there was another actress that she mentioned that were in the same room. She goes, I used to visualize working with you and being in the same room with you. And here I am. So I'm like, wow. So it's like the the 3D dimensional version of what a vision board can be, because not only are we using affirmations to describe what you want in present tense, and then having these images that really enhance and give your mind a place to start with your visualizations, but the secret sauce is the music, because the secret to your visualizations is feeling the emotions you will feel when you have these things in your life. Now, the reason that's important is because our thoughts and our emotions are the frequency that we're sending out into the void or out to the universe. So we want to be a vibrational match to the things that we want. So this is how we change our frequency. This is how we, get into a vibrational match to those things.
How fabulous. So one of the things that I'm teaching and bringing to our community is embodiment. It's about, uh, not just visualizing things, but to really feel the visualization, and not necessarily to drive it, but to allow it, and to get into the body with those felt sensations that equate to, what if this was already happening? What if this was already unfolding in my life? How would it feel to me physically? And get to know those sensations in the body, because the body helps to anchor those vibrations and keep them happening consistently, even when we're not in a given moment thinking about our goal or our vision, or whatever this would be. And so what you're saying is that the music helps catalyze that, because music transcends our thoughts and our belief systems, and it carries us into motion. And so this is a beautiful pairing with what I teach, for people to have this visual aid, with this multi-sensory input at the same time. So
Yeah. And the
fabulous.
song becomes an anchor.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
it you'll because I toured with Dr. Joe Dispenza for many years,
Mhm.
and he would have people in his courses like watching this big kaleidoscope that would take them into trance. And then you have
Mhm.
people then watching their mind movie, and then back to the kaleidoscope, and then back to their mind movie, but then back to the kaleidoscope, listening to the song of their mind movie. So now the brain is starting to populate, and then when they go into the meditation after that, they're choosing one scene or one slide from their mind movie, and they're dimensionalizing it while they're connected to the unified field. But the song becomes this memory or this anchor, and so that's why when you're making a mind movie, the song that you choose is really important. I always tell my clients, I go, make sure that you choose something that really blows your hair back, that really makes your heart sing, but that is relevant and appropriate for the theme of your mind movie. I met my partner during COVID. When everything was shut down, and there was, it was a very difficult time to meet someone romantically.
Mhm.
And of course, with that mind movie, I used a love song because that's the emotion I want to invoke. With my health and fitness one, I'm always choosing something that's upbeat and motivating, and that gets me out of bed, and just like this is, creates that higher energy about it. And then other songs that really have a strong meaning to me, like the very first Mind movie I made back in 2006. I used "Clocks" by Coldplay. And I can't listen to that song and not cry, because that mind movie, there was the beginning of this amazing life that I get to live, that far exceeds anything I could have possibly dreamed up for myself. And that song is the anchor for all of that.
How fabulous. Yes, it's entrainment, right? These engrams that are packaged together, that we access and bring forward. Again, if you stimulate part of it, it brings the rest of it forward, and it's kind of a package deal, sold together, bundled, and so you're leveraging that for the benefit of entrainment, and really allowing ourselves to remain focused in a singularly focused manner, consistently enough that this divine presence, or this unified field, can come pouring through and into our lives without being distorted or disrupted or impeded in some way. So, some specific questions here about, if people are stuck in fear or doubt, and they don't know yet what to do with those energies, they just feel stymied or stuck in some way. Um, what do you recommend for people with specific, intensely ingrained, you know, histories,
Yeah.
in their
Yeah,
in
I
their
mean,
world?
that's the thing. We when we're looking to create or manifest something in our lives, if we're only focused on the pain or the loneliness or the debt, whatever that is, then we can't even imagine something better for ourselves. If we had to think up of something, maybe we could think of a situation that'll get us out of our current dilemma, but it's not going to get us into a place where we can truly um, create and imagine something magnificent for ourselves. So we need to get to that point. And so I think that when we look at those, emotions that you're feeling when you're focusing on those things, the helplessness, the frustration, all of those things, they're lower frequency emotions. We can't manifest anything from there. So we need to get into higher frequency emotions. So even if it's things like, courage, commitment, accomplishment, pride, happiness, joy, and my personal favorite is gratitude. And for me, I've had too many experiences in my life that when I've really had a massive breakthrough, or I've had, something incredible, I've had a connection with the divine that was so palpable, it was undeniable. Gratitude was always the gateway. When I was in that frequency and in that place of gratitude, that's when it was easier for me to have that connection, or for me to very boldly imagine, how amazing my life could be, and to be able to articulate that in something like a mind movie. So gratitude for me is one of those tools that you can use. It's the to even if you're not focusing on something specific, but just to get out of the feelings of grayness. Like I had a client this morning that I was working with, and she said, look, I just have this ickiness in me. She goes, I don't know what it is. And we kind of talked a little bit about it. And of course, there's so much happening in the world right now that she's getting very triggered and pulled into the energy of what's going on around us. And I said, so the first question is, ask, is this mine? Or is this the collective that you're tapping into? And then the next thing is like, well, come on, let's get into a place of gratitude for what we can do, and what we have control over, not what we don't have control over, but what we have control over, and the contributions that we're making. And then from that place, let's even just look at the day. She had a couple of podcast interviews she had to do. I said, well, let's get us to a point where you're going to be coming into those interviews with the right energy, with the right place where you can be inspiring. You know, so for me, gratitude is the key.
It's a beautiful combination of frequencies. With gratitude, we're we're bringing the mind into the mix because we're aware of what we're grateful for. We're aware of the frequency itself,
Mm.
and the heart is involved because there is an appreciation, there is a depth of awareness and honoring of something, and that level of presence always changes the reality that we're living in. When we become present, our reality tunes into a clarity that is automatically filled with greater possibility. When we're not in that loving presence or gratitude in some way, we dial down into a smaller realm
Mm.
where our systems can only handle XYZ in terms of vibrational frequencies. The bandwidth gets shorter. When we open through the heart, we become capable of managing more and more even unfamiliar frequencies, which is what allows us to manifest something in our life today that we couldn't manifest yesterday. Because if today I'm more comfortable with unfamiliar vibrations, I'm going to welcome something new into my life and manifest something bigger, something greater.
Yeah.
And so we know that the vibration of love always does that. So when the mind is focused on love, and when you think about it, when you connect those two frequencies, you're going to get to things like gratitude and appreciation, and honoring, and a sacred reverence, and all that kind of stuff. So it's beautiful that you're out there really bringing people through these same things, a different language or a different place, but we're landing in the same place, in a beautiful way.
And the other
So
thing, something that you just touched on, and I think this is a tool, and it's something that we really want to be focusing on, is being comfortable with the unknown.
yeah.
The pandemic was like a massive, like, whoa, what, like, no one could have possibly have imagined that that was what was going to happen. And we find ourselves in this place where we don't have control over a lot of things. Although I know at that time I kept saying, we don't have control over anything. It's
Right.
an
Never did.
illusion.
Never did.
Yeah, exactly. But even now with all the crazy stuff that's happening in the world, being able to be comfortable in the unknown and to
No.
be optimistic and to welcome in the surprise of what could
Yeah.
possibly come next. And to do that, you do have to have a certain level of emotional regulation.
Mhm.
You need to be able to, when things start to go crazy and, you're starting to feel all these different emotions and, like, we're all fairly sensitive human beings and we pick up on a lot of the collective. The I've had very erratic energies the last couple of weeks, and since the fires here in LA, there's been just a lot of upheaval, and I have to really sit down and go, well, is this mine, or am I just picking up on the energy around me? And then I go through a breathing process, and I'll go through a visualization just to be able to get myself centered and grounded again.
Mhm.
But when we can be comfortable with like stepping into the unknown, and practice it in little ways, like throughout your day. I know one of the organizations I'm a member of is ATL, which is the Association of Transformational Leaders. And it's so funny. We have some people. So actually, one of the women on our board was like, "I want to know. I want to see the program. I want to know who's speaking. I want to do some research. I want to know what's happening in the whole, schedule." And I'm like, "Oh, I never look at the schedule." 'Cause I wanna be
Right.
surprised, and
Yeah.
this is a way for me to practice, being in the unknown or being open to that.
Mhm.
Even with my daily practices, I don't do my morning daily practices the same way every day. I like to
Yes.
mix it up a little bit because when
Right.
we just start living that same day over and over again, all
Right.
we're doing is, we're just staying stagnant.
Yes,
But
you're
when
allowing inspiration to have a role in your life. What I
mm,
feel inspired to start with this, or I feel inspired to do this, or I'm feeling to do something different today. That element is a vital force. That frequency of inspiration is, as well as spontaneity, are those are both enlivening frequencies that keep our bandwidth stirred into its potentiality. It's ready to be potentiated in a new way. When we get too regular, we have to be regular with showing up for ourselves. It doesn't have to be the same time every day. It doesn't have to be the same rhythm or the same patterns, but we do have to have a devotional something that keeps us connecting to a higher mind, keeps us connecting to higher possibilities than what our linear mind would come up with on its own.
yeah,
Something else that you mentioned that I think is really great is, instead of thinking about it as comfortable or uncomfortable, being comfortable with the unknown is a very important thing. I like to think of it as I'm unfamiliar instead of uncomfortable. Like if I take
mm,
comfort out of the mix, out of the equation, like comfortable, uncomfortable, I'm going to do it anyway. So I might as well take that out of the equation and just say, oh, well, I'm not familiar with that. It kind of breeds curiosity and it breeds inquiry and it breeds, this leaning in disposition instead of leaning back, saying, well, I'm not comfortable, where we close our arms off and, kind of ward the world away. Instead, we open and allow ourselves to become curious. I think that curiosity is one of the most powerful things that we can implement whenever there's this comfortable, uncomfortable, familiar, unfamiliar, situation in front of us. If we can just move in with curiosity, because if someone were comfortable and they were awake, they had awakened or they were awakening to a fair amount and they were grounded in their bodies and integrated in life, they're going to be curious. They're not going to be worried about being comfortable or uncomfortable. They're just going to be curious. It's like, hey, I know I'm okay no matter what's going on. So let's see what's next. And so if we can adopt those kinds of dispositions, I think it's very, very helpful for us to be able to expand our universe
yeah,
more rapidly. Yeah.
especially now. Because
Yes.
there is so much division and polarity.
Yes.
My partner, my guy is a Republican, and I'm surrounded by Democrats. So, I whenever we have conversations, I always go into that from a place of curiosity because I've been in the country for, I don't know, 15 years, and I became a citizen last year, but I don't have the history of the political party, so I don't have a lot of attachment. So it's easy for me to go, help me understand why you think this, or help me understand this. And I ask that of friends on both sides of the fence. But I
Yeah.
think that when you can enter in what could be a challenging conversation, if I always enter that with questions.
Yeah.
Because number
Questions.
one, I want
Yeah.
the other person to know feel like they're being heard,
Yeah.
but it also gives me an idea of like, "Oh, now, okay, I didn't think about it from that angle." So it actually what it does, it helps for me to expand my acknowledgement or my opinion about certain things. But I've got into the habit, I was saying this morning to my a client, I said, "I've got into the habit of not having strong opinions about anything because it's not like I can believe everything that I see." And so,
Right, right. And interestingly, we're made of creative energy. We're here, made of the universe, and the universe is creative energy. And if you compress and compress and compress energy, you get physical matter. So in these physical bodies, we are compressed creative energy. We are supposed to be creating our reality. And so if we are creating out of fear, we create a reality that's based in fear. If we're creating out of both and, which is what you're describing, ask some questions, get curious, see this and see that, and you make a more informed decision based upon more information. And it allows you to come forward with what's appropriate in this now moment rather than corralling yourself into a specific belief system that then is bumping up against, all the turmoil that is happening right now. What's happening is happening for a reason. And so we get curious about it. We might even find that even though we're against this and we're terrified about that, or we don't want this to be deconstructed, or, we're in the upheavals that we are in, it can allow for a tiny little light of, and there's something amazing that's going to come of this, whatever it is that we're experiencing. And so
absolutely.
it allows this both and it allows us to approach life from a creator. And a creator doesn't know what's gonna happen.
That's
The
right.
creator is creating as they go. It's like the
Yeah.
artist has a general idea, but when they start on the blank canvas, but there is so much that evolves in a painting, different times, different moods, different things surface. And by the time the artist finishes it, oftentimes they will say, it was completely different than what I started out to do, but I love it, because they allowed it to unfold step by step by step.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a lot going on, and I think it's too early for us to say if it's good or bad. Who knows? So, and again, I like to focus on the lane that I've chosen to make a difference in. Because I
Yes.
think for some of
Yes.
us, we can make a difference in a lot of different areas. I'm like, no, I had to choose a lane. This is my
Yeah.
lane. This is the
Yeah.
lane that I know I can move the needle, where I can
Well,
actually
you're
affect the change. So,
You're doing beautiful,
yeah.
beautiful things in that lane. I know you have a book that is also a wonderful contribution in your lane, and in a variety of lanes, actually. It's a very wide lane that this one speaks to, and it is entitled Never in Your Wildest Dreams, and it explores the unlocking of hidden gifts to create a life of passion, purpose, and prosperity. Um, what was the most profound lesson that you discovered in the culmination of, your book?
Writing the book was an interesting process because my editor or my publisher said, "We want you to write fiction." And I'm like, "I don't even read fiction. I have no idea how to do that." They go, "Think, Way the Peaceful Warrior and Celestine Prophecy." I'm like, "Okay." And so because I had a whole outline of a how-to book of how to apply law of attraction.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So, I remember doing an interview. I had a show called The Inspiration Show online for many years, and I was interviewing a gentleman who did a documentary on Joseph Campbell, and he was talking about the storytelling, the arc, the hero's journey. And I'm like, huh, maybe my book should follow that formula. So once I had the formula out, and then I kind of put the pieces together, it took me 2 weeks to write the book. 2 weeks. It just poured out of me. And then when I sent it off to the editors, they made a few edits on a couple of the first chapters, and they said the rest of it was great. No problem. I'm just like, whoa, okay, this is crazy. But of course, me being an online girl and I'm a how-to kind of person, I'm like, are they really going to get the lesson from the story? I don't know. And I was watching HBO one night, and I remember watching a show, and it said, "Stay tuned for inside the episode." And I'm like, Ooh, inside the
Oh.
chapter. That would be really good. So I ended up doing a bunch of little videos that were inside the chapter describing, what the character's
Yeah.
going through, what the life lesson is, and then with different
Right.
tools and things that people could use. So it's multimedia book, but yeah,
So fabulous. So they're reading along in the book, and then they get to go and watch your behind the scenes
yeah,
explanations of kind of
yeah.
the inside story. How
Yeah.
fabulous. What a great idea.
Yeah, and the fiction
Awesome.
was writing fiction was great because it gave me poetic license to really describe how these concepts show up in a real life situation.
Right.
How this shows up for most of us. And I don't know how many women have written to me and said, "Oh my God, I'm Catherine." And Catherine is the heroine in the story. And she's like all of us. She's midlife, she's unhappy, she's overweight, she's divorced, she's lonely, and all these different things, and all the stuff that we face. And so I was able to go into the depths of what she was feeling, and then her journey coming out of that using these principles. And people are like, "Oh, I'm Catherine. I'm so Catherine."
Fabulous. Wonderful. I think that's really great because oftentimes in a self-help book, people don't necessarily know how to implement what they're learning. They don't know how to recognize. They might even know how to implement it because there's usually exercises or practices in the book, but they might not know what it looks like when it shows up in life, that this is my now moment. This is my opportunity to implement what I learned over here in this book. This is that. This is where it shows up. This is your moment now. Go. Sometimes it blows right past because they've been living inside of those sets of circumstances. It's rote. It's an ingrained set of synapses that carries them right through their blind spots, and all of a sudden they find themselves in the situation again instead of being able to head it off at the pass, so to
Yeah.
speak.
And
Yeah.
what I was describing was very like common situations that a lot of women at our age face. So they could very much identify with the main character and go, "Oh, that happened to me. I get that now. Now I see what that is." So it was a
So
good way to get the story out.
right. Exactly.
Mm.
So when someone does feel stuck and their circumstances are, what they are, and they feel like, this is it. These are the choices I've made. This is the life that I've created. There's no way that I can leave this job or leave this relationship or I don't even know if that's what I want to do, but that's where my thoughts go. And I'm spinning, and it's getting deeper. I'm spinning. It's digging a hole.
Hmm.
How do you guide and inspire them to transform thought patterns and to truly step into this mindset of possibility, which is not where they are in those moments?
Yeah. Yeah, I know a lot of the women that I work with, that when they first find me, they go, "Look, I know what I don't want. I don't know
Yeah.
what I do want yet, but I know I don't want
Mm.
this."
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of people fall under the mistake that thinking that, for me to be able to attract something or to create something new in my life, I need to have a clear picture of what that is. And when you're starting out, that's not the case.
Mm.
You want to start with the macro things. You want to start with the bigger things and then as you start to move towards that life, um, more things will become apparent. You'll start to get a little bit more refined in what it is that you want. But sometimes it could be when people create their first mind movie. Sometimes the affirmations are just describing things like, "I want my own business." It's like, they
Mm.
don't know what the business is yet, but they know they want their own business. They want to be able to, work their own hours. They want to have certain amount of time off. They want to help people. They don't know how they want to help people yet, but they know they want to do something to help people. So when you even are clear about what those generalized things are, that can be a great starting point. Because then you
Mhm.
go, okay, well, who do I want to help, or how do I want to do that? With a lot of the coaches that I'm working with, I have, when they're going through the program, they come in going, "Look, I know I want to help people. I know I want to make a difference." And, through the program, we get them to figure out what their niche is, or who it is that they want to help. Because, you could
Mhm.
say, "I want to help women," but that's not really, fine tuning it. And like the session I had this morning, this woman, she's in her 60s. And she had this conversation with a woman. This woman's husband passed away. It was her second marriage, and she's having some challenges with his children and all that kind of thing. But she said, I've found this coming up a lot. So these are the women that I want to coach. The women that are a little later in life that don't have any self identity at the moment and are struggling to know how to navigate through this time of their life. And I'm like, perfect. We have one gentleman who's like, he had a coaching business, like a fitness coaching business, helping older women build their strength so they don't fall and break a hip. Well, now he's added this, coaching part to it because what he's realized is that a lot of the people he's attracting have gone through a cancer journey. And
Mm.
he also went through a cancer journey himself. So he's now been able to refine it to that. So, you don't need to know all the details.
Hmm.
But if you've got an idea of, the direction in which you want to head, then that's enough to get you started.
Yes, this is a thing right there where people don't think that they can start until they know everything they need to know to complete it.
Yeah.
And it's the most amazing thing. And I think that years ago, a few decades ago, and we were coached and trained like you're never going to get there if you don't have the end in mind. You're going to start a journey, but if you don't have the end in mind, you're going to wander around for a long time. And so it kind of set up this mindset that, gosh, I don't know everything, so I can't start because I don't know the answers yet. And what do you say right there to people? Like they're looking you right back in the eye and saying, "Yeah, but I just don't know, and I just don't feel like I can start until I know more." What
Yeah.
do you give them right then that kind of pushes them over across the starting line,
Yeah.
even though they don't know what the finish line looks like yet?
Yeah. Well, a lot of people think, well, I don't know how I can do this. Now, what I teach is around the parameters of the law of attraction, which means
Mm,
that you're not doing it by yourself anyway. The reason that you're implementing these strategies is so that you can leverage the power of the universe to help and guide you on this journey. And, I think a lot of the times we think, well, we need to know how to do this ourselves. And, that has never been the case for me. Anything incredible and amazing that I have achieved in my life, I have not done alone. So if whether it's been a business partner, and actually we realized that Glenn, my ex-husband, and I, we're business partners in Mind Movies, but we've been business partners for 30 years in all different types of businesses. So whether it's a business partner or whether it's a community that you join or a mastermind group, or whatever that is, you want to surround yourself with the right people because you'll never do it all by yourself anyway. And part of the process is not just attracting the right resources, but also attracting the right people, as well as the right opportunities to be able to help you to get to where you want to go. So it's not like you ever have to do anything alone. And I think the biggest key to my success has always been the people that I surround myself with. When we first came to the US back in 2008, that we went to an internet marketing seminar, we joined a mastermind group, we met all these other internet marketers, and then we just immersed ourselves in this world and learned everything that we could to launch My Movies in 2008. Now, when the
mm,
economic crisis was happening, which didn't realize because we were, working on this launch, we did a $700,000 week. But everyone else was losing their homes and their jobs and all this kind of. Our experience was something completely different, and we had a lot of help to be able to get us to that point. So, and even now, when I look at my circle of friends and the people I surround myself with, they're people that we all have each other's back.
mhm,
And where we can engage in amazing conversations, and we're all doing something that's going to really help to change the world. Well, this is intentional. I intentionally surround myself with these people because this is the energy that I want to be in to be able to do what I need to do, and
mhm.
also have that support when I need it.
Yeah, I am so grateful for our conscious community that gathers in terms of even, being part of our audience with the Art of Awakening and the energy that gets leveraged by that,
Mm.
that communion. And many of them are participating in our workshops and our, online trainings and such. And they've come to know each other over the years, and they've found, beautiful friendships. And I know that this is true. When people engage and they say yes to themselves based upon something that's appealing to them, they're hearing you speak today, and they're thinking, gosh, I wonder, what's in that for me, and coming in and stepping into things, you find people that are truly in the same vibration and looking for the same momentum, and we facilitate that for one another in these moments. So, and it's a beautiful point. So, okay, so one more question here. How does awakening, becoming more conscious of our beliefs and our inner power, etc., serve as a spark for transformation and a guiding light for stepping fully into the role of creator in one's life? So just drop that in. I know we've been speaking about that in our conversation today, but to just land it for people, like when I become aware of my habits or patterns that sabotage me or that get in my way, becoming aware of those beliefs that are driving those things, or even becoming aware that I can open and expand my idea of my potential self. When all of that, comes together at the end of the day, what do you think happens right there that begins to spark something for someone as a guiding light for them to realize that I do have what it takes to create a life that I love?
Well, there's two major things that happened for me when I really started to live from that space. And first of all, it felt like life went from being black and white to technicolor. It's like everything you appreciate everything so much more. You derive so much more joy from even the simplest things. Even when things are challenging, you can easily slip into a place of gratitude, and even awareness that helps you to explain, some of the things that are going on outside of you, but then how you can navigate through that in a place that's very grounded and very centered, but still in a place where you can tap into higher guidance or intuition, or whatever that is for you. That has
Mhm,
been a big game changer for me. The
mhm,
other thing is that when you want to create a life that you want, and then you have to be very active when it comes to the manifestation process. There are a bazillion decisions that need to be made along the way. So when
right,
you are in this place of awareness, it helps you to very easily make these decisions, easily, quickly, but from a place of trust and knowing that you're on the right path.
mhm,
Because often we can get immobilized when there's a decision to be made, and you're like, "Oh, I don't know, should I do this one?" I'm like, "I don't know. What if I make the wrong decision?" I was from this place of awareness. I don't have that struggle. You know,
mhm,
because I'll make a decision, and I know that whatever uh, path that takes me down is the path I'm meant to be on anyway.
mhm,
You know,
right,
so maybe even if I had have take made the other choice, it might have been a different journey, but the journey that I'm on is the journey I'm meant to be on anyway. And
yes,
so when I can do that from this place of knowingness and awareness, it's like, life seems to be it's easier for me to navigate through challenging times.
mhm. Yes, and accepting that I make this decision, I get down the road, if I don't like the decision, I can make another decision. It's not the
Exactly.
last decision I'll ever make, right? I have a
Exactly.
pocket full of them. I get to make more than one decision in my life.
Yeah.
And I do find that part of the success of my life has been that I know quickly what's right for me. And the way I have come to know very quickly what's right for me or what's not right for me is by getting to know this internal being, the version of me that is behind the eyes and inside the skin, and getting to know what that one feels like when it's aligned and integrated and embodied, and all the things that we're working with. And so when we come to know that, we know pretty quickly, yeah, that's for me, or yeah, think and we just keep moving. As I know that there's a flow that's supposed to be happening through our lives, and when we can make decisions relatively quickly with ease and grace, that flow doesn't get interrupted. It's when we hem and haw, our whole system has to process all of the possibilities of one choice and then all of the possibilities of another choice, and it's exhausting to the subconscious. It's like, tell me, am I doing this or am I doing that? I'm trying to work it all out at the same time, and it's very exhausting to the system.
Yeah. Well,
So
and
beautiful.
having the awareness of the awareness. I love it.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
The
That's it.
awareness that you have the awareness, that you have that knowing, that you can tap into that. And I'm the same. It's not like you could go, okay, this is my decision. I'm going to try and think of every single consequence of making this decision. That's
Yeah.
impossible. You're never
Yes.
going to be able to do that. You go, what feels, let me tap in to that part of myself. And when you have a consistent practice of doing that all the time, when it comes to a moment like this, it's easier for you to tap in and go, yeah, this feels like the right one. Let's do it. And you do it
Yes.
without second guessing, and you do it from a place of trust,
Yeah.
you know?
And I find that the more simple it is,
Mm.
that the chances are nature's going to flow right through me without too many obstacles bouncing around and creating complexity and,
Yeah.
bogging down the system. So I kind of find that the ones that I end up choosing are like, oh, I'm just going to do this. Fun, simple, and easy. I'm doing it. And the next thing I know, I'm on to the next one. And the next thing I know, there are, millions of opportunities around, lots and lots of people, hundreds of thousands of people plugging into this or doing that. It's amazing,
Mm.
really, what we end up experiencing if we just let the flow flow. Just
Yeah.
let this happen instead of, deliberating all the time on it.
Exactly.
So, okay. So I want to just mention the name of your book again, Never in Your Wildest Dreams. And our listeners today are going to check that out, I'm just sure. And just tell them one thing they ought to look for in the book. Just one thing. Like, what are you after? Picked up this book. Here's what you're going to get out of it.
Yeah, I think that when you start reading the book, knowing or having in mind a challenge that you're facing in that moment, and then as you're going through the book, applying everything that you read in there and that you learn through there to this particular situation, this is what's going to help to make a shift for you. I think
Mm,
sometimes we can go in going, oh, my whole life needs a makeover. No, focus on one thing and then start applying those strategies to that one particular area. And it's not like
mm,
you won't be able to apply to other areas as well. You will eventually do that. And you change, your frequency changes as you're reading the book. So you'll start to see improvements everywhere. But if you can focus on one thing and have that in mind as you go through, that is going to help you to make a marked difference in your life.
ah, beautiful. Is there anything else that you're up to right now that you want to share with everyone?
No, we're actually doing some work with schools, which is kind of a little exciting. I did a presentation last week with 17 military schools, and
Wow.
so they're all starting to implement the app now and helping their students, with their emotional regulation and helping with stress and overwhelm, which we're pretty excited about. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's we're getting there slowly.
Yes, right. Every way we can, in every way
Yeah.
we can to support our beautiful world in all the
Mhm.
ways that it needs the support right now. So, before we wrap up, Natalie, can you just share with us where our listeners can find you?
Yeah. So the best place is mindmovies.com. If you go to mindmovies.com, you'll be able to download some free mind movies from there. You can find out all about the podcast and all about our other programs. And it's the one stop shop for everything. So, yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. So that link will be in the show notes as well for everyone to be able to plug right into you with ease. And we look forward to them connecting the dots with you in whatever way possible. So thank you so much, Natalie, for being here and sharing your amazingness with us. And and we look forward to being able to connect again soon.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Much love to you. Thank you for being here. And to all of you, I want to say thank you for joining us on the Art of Awakening podcast. And remember to subscribe and share this episode. And I look forward to connecting with you next time. Until then, I'm Dr. Sue Morter. Blessings to you all. Bye bye for now.